Hey guys, it's Mitch. How's it going? We're taking a look at another Valiant book today. Everybody loves Valiant, which means about 85 people are going to watch this video, so I don't have to worry about saying fuck in it. We're taking a look today at Turok #1. So just before we get into it, if you enjoy the channel, if you feel like you might want to help out a little bit, go subscribe to my Patreon. Links are in the description, gives you early access to everything I do, helps out the channel, helps to buy new comics. So Turok is one of the original properties that Valiant purchased when they were starting up their superhero line. It was Solar, it was Magnus, and Turok. It's originally published by Dell Comics, and then the rights were purchased by Gold Key, and then later on, when years later, Valiant, of course, scooped up these properties, thinking they could try and parlay the any kind of nostalgia effect from the 60s. I don't know that there really was any. So they started with Magnus and then moved on to Solar. And yeah, I don't think there was any real response about, recognizable characters exactly. It was more the fact that Valiant Comics were always on time. Valiant Comics had decent storylines. Yeah, I mean, Magnus was all right. Solar was, I don't know. But hey, it had art by Barry Windsor Smith, so that was a start. And they just kind of, plugged along, and they slowly built their fan base. And of course, they had their whole thing with the gold foil logos, where if you did some kind of service for Valiant in your community to help spread the word about Valiant, then Valiant would send you out a gold foil version of, Eternal Warrior #1 or whichever it was. So, it was a loyalty program with the customers that really paid off. And the fact that they kept the print runs low meant that they never grew so large that they had to rely on overinflated print runs, as a lot of books ended up doing. That is right up until Jim Shooter got ousted as one of the owners of Valiant. Because, of course, the owners, shareholders of Valiant, they saw the way superheroes were going. This is 1993 now. So we're like neck deep in the speculator era. You're seeing comics regularly get 700,000 copy print runs. Meanwhile, Jim Shooter's over here saying, no, we can get by on 50,000. And I think this was just in the wake of the Unity crossover, which had mostly been written by Jim Shooter. This was like the entire Valiant line, all 8 books. And this was in an effort to try and create a unified superhero universe. And, it was a big event. It was pretty hyped up. I don't know how many people bought it, but I'm sure it increased sales at least more than they already were. So they booted Jim out, and they immediately started flooding the market with chromium comics and hologram shit and huge bloated print runs, which is how we come finally to Turok. This is July of 1993. I guess the shareholders went, do we have any properties we haven't exploited yet? And somebody went, yeah, we still got one of those original ones that we got, this Turok thing. We don't know what to do with it. And they were like, get our best artist on it, and we'll slap a chromium foil logo on the cover and a weird hologram, like postcard thing or something, and we'll print 1.9 million of those suckers and distribute them. So yeah, if you're wondering, Turok #1 is like the 10th all-time highest-selling comic, in the post-newsstand era anyway. So why don't we just get into this? I feel like I was all over the place to start there. We can start with the cover. That's absolutely ridiculous. The only thing I've seen that is more overproduced was the Bloodshot #1 cover, which I guess was what they decided they wanted to do to kind of knock everybody's socks off for their #1s going forward, where you had the foil logo, you also had the weird kind of chromium hologram, whatever this postcard thing is, and then you'd open it up and the thing was drawn by Don Perlin, reliable house style guy. At least with this one, the cover artist is actually still the interior artist, so we're going to get Bart Sears on this one. And it's a great looking composition, It's triangular, it's dynamic, the dude's all torqued up. We've even got a bit of a directional device here with the arrow pointed straight down at the, what are they, Bionosaurs, something like that. I will say this postcard thing is kind of shittily done. Like it's like glued onto the front of the cardstock cover and not symmetrically. That's a little surprising. Good drawing, at least. Okay, so let's get into this. This is going to be written by David Michelini. Well, that's something. Penciled by Bart Sears, inked by Randy Elliott. Also okay. Colorist Jorge Gonzalez. Well, I don't know who that is, but it's at Valiant, and they don't have much in the way of materials. So he's not going to be able to help out very much. All right, so we're going to start off with Turok, alone in the woods, and he's trying to give himself a vision. And the whole deal with Turok is that he's stuck in, it's like a Lost World situation. Or at least it was in the Dell and Gold Key books, where the land that Turok got swept up in, it's, the home to dinosaurs. It's really, it's outside of time, so it'll have all sorts of different kinds of animals from different periods. So yeah, that's kind of fun. Only the version in this comic As far as I can tell, the dinosaurs became bionic, and the bionics made them evil, or maybe they were already evil, and just the bionics brought it out more. Turok was first introduced in Magnus Robot Fighter number 12, which was just a couple of months before Unity. So I guess plans were probably underway to get the title going while Jim was still at the helm, and then they just, kept going with it, and then they kept releasing all sorts of other titles. It's a pretty good drawing, we're getting our introduction to our main character here. Not super dynamic or anything, but it's not that kind of opening to the story. So Bart Sears is just gonna, create a big drawing with a lot of room for David Michelini to stick in some description if he wants to. And he does a little bit. All right, now we're going to get the history of Turok. I'm not sure how much of it would have shown up in Magnus or Unity before this, but, it's always a good idea to give a recap, particularly in a number 1 where you're kind of reintroducing a character. So Turok, it's pretty much what you imagine. Him and his brother were 18th century natives, and they discovered a weird hole in the desert. And when they went to investigate it, they came out the other side and found that they had ended up in dinosaur world somehow. They made peace with the locals, which were like cavemen, but then there were invaders from another cave and another world that had futuristic tech and started exploiting all the resources in the Lost World. So the residents of the Lost World kind of tried to rally against these interlopers, with Turok and his brother Andar leading them, but, nobody had decent weapons versus guys with super future tech. So they all got slaughtered. Some decent drawings to start with here. We're going for storytelling for the most part, except when Bart Sears gets to do a bit of a larger image. I guess he's probably got a bit more leeway to do that now that Jim Shooter's not there anymore. And it's always interesting to see what kind of compositions Bart Sears will pick, because of course he had the Brutes and Babes feature in Wizard where he'd teach you how to draw shit. Part of that was basic comic storytelling, so, since he felt authoritative enough in it, I suppose, to come up with a bit of a class, it's like, okay, so what do you do now? And comes up with stuff like this. It's like, oh, yeah, no, that's pretty good. Okay. Okay, so things in the Lost World weren't going too well. Turok's on the losing side. They're just losing ground all over the place until Magnus Robot Fighter comes down and helps them turn the tide. It is able to help, turn back whatever this alien force is. Pretty awesome shot here. Interesting choice to make everything red. I assume so you don't have a ton of blood showing. Although we've also got some flames in the background, so that might just be kind of a theme they're going for there. But yeah, good separation of the figures here. It's always interesting taking a look at Bart Sears' stuff, because he's obviously very good, but he never stuck around on anything in particular for any particular length of time, which I assume is probably due to scheduling. He looks like a guy who puts a lot of work into his pages, either figuring out compositions that are interesting or putting a lot of lines on the page. And he's also been able to subsidize his income with a bunch of side projects, including a bunch of designs for toys. I think I mentioned in the Violator video that he also designed the Cops toys, as well as other lines. Anyway, back to the story here. We're still going with the origin. This is going to be a whole lot of origin, I guess. After Magnus takes off, they help to turn the tide. And as far as Turok and Andar are concerned, at that point, God shows up. And that's Mother God from the Unity crossover. And Turok and Andar swear fealty to Mother God, because that's what you do when God shows up on your doorstep. And they're sent out to try and deal with a couple of Mother God's enemies. In this case, it's Archer and Armstrong. But they end up getting into a conversation, and maybe we ended up being on the wrong side in this war. And then Turok eventually comes back, aided by guys like Rai and Shadow Man and Exo Manowar. And they're able to push back Mother God's forces slowly. But Mother God recognizes that Turok betrayed her. And one day when he's going back to his village, he finds that her vengeance was pretty harsh, and she basically incinerated the entire village. We're still going with the origin. I guess we're getting close to an end here, though. And the leader of the assassins, these are the Biodinos, was called Monarch. And so this is Turok's nemesis. He's going to have to hunt him down and take his life himself. And yeah, we're finally ready to get going on this issue's story. So let's do that. So now the visions fade, because that's how we got into this in the first place, right? And it turns out that while he's been looking for ways to hunt down Monarch, Monarch actually sent people after him. So here's one of those biodinos crashing Turok's campfire and trying to kill him off. So now we're going to get a little bit of an action scene. Get Turok flipping around here. Ooh, careful on the loincloth placement. And not a whole lot going on here. Just kind of grabs, he says Mother God's bow. So I guess this is a bow he stole from her on his way out. And tries to shoot, I believe this is Monarch. with an arrow and accidentally misses and hits the tree and is kind of beside himself about it. And Turok realizes that he's also being outflanked. This is still, I think this is right around the time Jurassic Park came out. So the idea of like velociraptors coming at you from opposing sides, that may have been in the works when this was getting scripted, but not necessarily. I mean, it's a fairly common tactic, I think. I think it's just the biodino thing that's making me think that. Anyway, they're going to take a swipe at Turok and like kind of claw him open here, so that's pretty good stuff. And they go herding him towards the edge of a cliff. And as soon as he gets close to the edge here, it crumbles out from under him. Monarch and his buddy are going to stay at the top while Turok falls all the way down to the bottom to the river. And the biodinos assume this means that Turok is dead, so they can go ahead without being bothered by him anymore. Yay! Yeah, this is all pretty good stuff. It's, I don't know, it's interesting that Bart Sears doesn't go very heavy on shadow. He instead kind of fills up his pages with just a bunch of stuff, which tends to get them looking kind of cluttered. But I just noticed that sometimes with Bart Sears' pages, where he's so dedicated to filling it up, like just kind of giving quality of the drawing. And instead of, turning up the fidelity on like one figure and just kind of, making like baseline stuff in the background to make him pop, he just kind of fills the entire drawing with equal quality drawings of various sizes. And it tends to kind of make it all smear a little bit. I don't know, just my personal opinion. And it doesn't help too much that, these colors are still the Valiant colors and they're absolutely god-awful. I do still think they're a little bit better than they were at the beginning, when like there was very clearly like pencil crayon in there every once in a while. It's still not good, particularly for what's supposed to be a professional comic in like the third, fourth year. And like, basically the number 3 publisher at this time. I guess they needed the funding of Turok and Bloodshot #1 to, get the money. And then after this, they would all the books would have top of the line color, right? I don't think so. I get the feeling it was more like everybody went, hey, now we all get Lamborghinis. And we're going to keep putting out not quite professional looking material. All right, Turok gets washed up on a shore, still bleeding profusely, still alive, but not doing very well. And he's getting a little delirious here. As somebody reaches towards him, he assumes it's Monarch, because of course he does, only it turns out it's a woman. And he's terrified and passes out at the sight of her. Probably doesn't have anything to do with the blood loss. Okay, so from there, we're going to cut to a villa in the hills above Medellin, where a coke dealer named Carlos is finding out about a convoy of his that is under attack. And we can tell because he gets, like a portable phone. It's 1993. Those are a little rare. Only the coke dealers have them. And when he listens in, he hears, "No, get away, mama monsters, blam kapow pow." And this pisses off the coke dealer, and he goes, "Alberto, get me my guns." So he pissed off the wrong coke dealer, kapow pow monsters. All right, back in the village where Turok was being tended to by the woman who found him, wakes up in almost a fugue state, talking about Monarch and Mother God and how he's got to hunt down Monarch and kill him. The woman's just weirded out that he speaks their language. This is something apparently he picked up from Mother God. And then he passes out again. So it feels like a bit of a pointless page, really. I kind of remember seeing this, or at least this head, in black and white, and it looked a lot better without the shitty color. It's Deathmate time. I don't think we need to talk about Deathmate again. All right, now we just get kind of a montage page as Turok slowly heals over the next little while. They don't say exactly how long. I don't think he's really keeping track. But this is an agricultural society that thinks it's odd that somebody would focus as much as Turok has on like martial arts. I was going to say marital arts. I don't think that's quite right. Those are very different. And we get, like a nice big, full-size shot of Turok here. That looks pretty good. Bart Sears' style is so weird. It's very fluid. And all the dudes are like over-muscled. And everybody looks just like super ugly. Like these shots of Turok on the previous pages. Like I don't know if that's supposed to be a hero exactly. I guess it's, in 1993 that kind of works because he looks kind of crazy. Like same with these shots here. Yeah, like there's nobody looks particularly good in a Bart Sears comic. And by that I mean like attractive, He's got like this weird hyper Bern Hogarth style. I'm not sure exactly where he got it from. And a little while later they've all gotten to know Turok. He's kind of becoming part of the tribe basically. So he and Sarita are like going down to the river and fishing using bow and arrow. Sure, why not? Streeta stops paying attention for a minute and gets almost jumped by a panther, but of course Turok is always watching and shoots it down. And then once he shoots it down, he has to make an offering and, say thanks to the panther. Appreciate you dropping by, giving us your meat. Sorry we had to kill you. But yeah, you see the way he does musculature, where it's like, yeah, it's all super fluid. That was how I first started getting the idea of how to draw musculature, was the Brutes and Babes section of Wizard magazine. All right, so elsewhere in the jungle, I believe these are members of the tribe, but we're not exactly in the village. And they're getting jumped by Monarch and his buddies. And just getting, torn right open here. Okay, yeah, that's kind of gross. So I guess it really wasn't about... That Magnus shot there really wasn't about hiding the blood. I guess I should have known that. I don't think they really shied away from blood in Valiant too much. They don't go overboard with it. They never get excessive. But yeah, they're not above showing... just somebody's guts hitting the floor, really. If that's what happens, then that's what you show. So while they're getting cut down in the jungle here, one of them is able to yell to another to go and find Turok and get him. And one of the people here, of course, is Monarch. And he's a little shocked that Turok is still alive. He's like, oh shit, we should have hunted him down as soon as I thought he was incapacitated. So Monarch lets the guy go and find Turok and bring him back to, I guess the battlefield here. So we get Turok, just kind of sneaking through the jungle. That's some fun looking stuff. Still not going super hard on Shadow exactly, a little bit. But. And on his way to the battlefield, Turok notices that the trail is getting easier and easier to find. There's no deception whatsoever. And the big old clearing there, none of the biodinos are around. So it's totally safe, or it would be a very good place for an ambush. And Turok's going to go off to the side and just kind of observe for a minute. We get a little bit of game within the game. I was like, okay, I know that he knows that I know that he's watching. And he knows that I'm not going to, all that kind of stuff. And he's sitting there trying to figure it out because this is too obvious to just be an ambush. Something else must be going on that Monarch is after. And then he kind of realizes what it would be that Monarch would want more than just Turok. And it's the village, right? I mean, he did that before. It's a little surprising that Turok didn't think of that right away, really. But, Monarch jumps out of the bushes as Turok's realizing. Turok is able to blind him by the looks of it. Or maybe it's like an explosive arrow or something, but it bounces off the metal plate on his head and hits a nearby tree. And I guess, maybe the concussion knocks him out. It's hard to tell exactly what happened, but it's fun stuff anyway. And he makes his way back to the village. And there are people getting killed, but it's like the beginning of a massacre. And he just starts picking them off one by one. That's a pretty good shot, eh? The silhouette. But, you see just filling it up with all sorts of extra stuff here. Just extra grass, extra trees, extra leaves. Yeah, shooting more dinosaurs in the head with arrows. I'm sure that's entirely possible. And then at the bottom of the page here, he's run out of arrows. So he's down to his knife and his bow. But the bow can also be used as a weapon, I believe. Yeah, so he's just whirling from side to side, slashing away at the dinosaurs, who are apparently pretty shitty fighters. For being giant reptiles that should be able to take care of anything fairly easily. But whatever, what are we going to do, complain? And he's, making good headway. He gets through almost all of them. The last one is able to knock the dagger out of his hand, naturally. But that's fine. I mean, this is really more of a showcase for what I think we're going to see over the course of this series, which is, okay, this is going to be Turok versus the dinosaurs. Here's how a Turok versus dinosaurs fight might go. These are the weapons he brings to bear. He's got his bow and arrow, he's got his knife, and he's got his bow without arrow. Because this is the Mother God bow, and he hits a button on it. That's a cool shot, close up here of the dinosaur just kind of bearing down on him. But he hits the button on the bow, and I guess it kind of extends a blade, which is able to bisect the head with. That's pretty sweet. But yeah, good looking artwork. Again, that color's just awful. I wish we could see this in black and white. I think this would have been so much better. Okay, so now with the threat over, Turok is able to turn to the village, and it's like, hey, so everybody okay? It's like, well, most of us. We're not okay with you staying, though, because this is going to be a common problem as long as you're hanging around our village. So here's some arrows. Thanks. Fuck off. And yeah, Turok wanders away. And yeah, there's a Bart Sears beautiful woman. I mean, it's structurally sound. And in the meantime, Exo Man of War number 0 It's coming out soon. We did a review on that one already. Yeah, it's such a weird time for Valiant when they went from, these small print runs and story focused, don't give a shit about art to, hey, just kidding. We've got Joe Quesada and, we're getting Barry Windsor-Smith back for a couple of covers, and we got Bart Sears, and we're all about chromium and 7-digit print runs. Oh, Harbinger's up to issue 25, and we get the Sting versus Harada showdown. It's a shame that Jim Shooter wasn't around for that. I wonder how that went. Anyway, that's it for Turok number 1. I didn't think that was particularly great. Like I said it a bunch of times over the course of the video, the artwork looks great if you don't kind of cover it in a lot of shitty color, which unfortunately they did. The character of Turok is good enough, I think. It's a standard character. Basically, the taciturn, stoic, Native American warrior. I mean, you could totally turn that into a protagonist, sure. I gotta say, the thing with the bio-dinos is not compelling. Now, maybe that's just for me, and maybe that's just because I've only read the one issue, but, I feel like we didn't see very much of them in here. We saw Monarch attacking people. We didn't really get much of what his train of thought is, like why he does this. Maybe he's just doing it because he's evil. I don't know. If that's the case, again, it's not very compelling. It'd be nice if he had some kind of motivation for what was going on other than just to, be bad. I was going to say, I wonder how long Turok goes for, but I don't think it matters. I don't think it's going to be very long because Valiant doesn't last for much longer. We're like halfway through the lifespan of Valiant at this point. It's got like 3 years left after Jim Shooter leaves. I mean, it went for a while. It went for 47 issues. Couldn't quite make it to 50, but that's still pretty good. I kind of expected it to peter out around 30, 32. And I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it must have had at least some kind of cachet with some people. There's some interesting names associated towards the end of the run. I see it's like an early entry for Mike Diodato. I see Tim Truman associated with it, which does not surprise me in any kind of way. And I saw Jackson Gweiss, which is always like, oh, that's actually probably pretty good. And then Rags Morales towards the end. I think Rags is okay too. So, I mean, kind of a history of competent artists at least, which is, hey, that's all right. But, I mean, just based off of the first issue, yeah, I never would have gotten issue 2. I do have issue 2. For some reason, I have 2 copies of issue 2. Just in case, I wanted to go through them on the channel. It's like, no, I don't really want to read this again. I'm good. So, another Valiant title that we, just kind of got out of the way. Okay, we've taken a look at this. Now, let's forget it exists and look for another Valiant title. And we will do that eventually. But for this one anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you know when the next one's coming out. Go over and subscribe on my Patreon. Gives you early access to everything I do, from the Blood Force stuff to the YouTube videos before they get uploaded to YouTube, as well as some Patreon exclusive content. You can also follow me on Instagram and DM me there for commissions, and you can join the Blood Force Discord server. But yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks again for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.